Bienvenidos a FFL Semanal. After a one-week hiatus scaling the mountains of Monserrate in Colombia, we are back in 305, Season 9 going strong. I'm trying to stay strong, but my vacation sure took a toll on me, so if I sound less than 100% today, it's because I am. But the show stops for no one. Let's get rolling with the Week 7 recap.
FFL Week 7.
We're going to do it like we always do, starting strong with America's Game of the Week. It's the maligned, the misunderstood, the multiverse, channeling his inner House of the Dragon as he rips the crown off King Nick's head. A 162-90 blowout moves the multiverse up to 4-3, and King Nick, with a shockingly disappointing output after a scorching start, falls to 5-2. Patrick Mahomes, undervalued by many after losing Tyreek Hill and finishing QB4 the last 2 seasons, puts up 32.9 on 423 yards and 3 touchdowns. Regarded as the best quarterback in the NFL, he is showing why this season as your fantasy QB2. The multiverse is happy that so much of Mahomes' work went to Juju Smith-Schuster. He goes 7 catches on 8 targets, 124 yards, and a score. And lining out wide next to him on that multiverse offense, back from the dead, the midseason rejuvenation, the tactical nuke, it's DeAndre Hopkins. 14 targets, 10 catches, 103 yards. He breaks 20 points without a touchdown. Ladies and gentlemen, fuck around and find out with the multiverse. On the other side of the ball, everyone played well for King Nick except for his Baltimore Ravens, and that ended up crucial. Only 10 from Lamar, 0.5 from Kenyon Drake, and a shocking 0.4 from Mark Andrews. He played on 56 of 64 possible snaps, but his knee injury kept him from performing to his standard. A funky day for this Baltimore offense, and King Nick will have a hard time winning every time that happens. Thankfully, it's not often, as shown by Lamar still being your QB4 and Andrews still your tight end 2. Moving on to the battle of 3-3 opponents, it's Rest in Peace Pop Smoke dropping 155 en route to a 28-point dub over the Rejects Revolution. Justin Fields, inserted as QB1 on Jalen Hurts' bye week, stepped up to the task with 25 points. But the real stars of the game were Josh Jacobs and Jamar Chase. They combined for 69 giggity fantasy points. Chase is now your wide receiver 4, and Josh Jacobs your running back 4. On the other side of the ball, lots to be happy about for the Rejects. 127 points on Josh Allen's bye week. The young studs at running back Ramondre and Pierce combined for over 39 of those points. Stevenson, looking like a PPR league winner, caught all 8 of his targets. Up next, the family turns against one another, and we're not talking about La Familia, we're talking about blood brothers. The Perez bros go head-to-head, and the Frugs' big brother, the Hogs, a 46-point blowout sends the Frugs above 500, and the Hogs, squealing for mercy, now sit at 2-5. The stars of the show were Joe Burrow and Kenneth Walker. Burrow giving Atlanta their worst nightmare since 28-3. He exploded for 34 of 42 passing, 501 total yards, and 4 touchdowns. 45 points for Joe Shiesty, and how about that rookie, Kenneth Walker? 167 yards and 2 touchdowns. No PPR work? No problem. 28.7 fantasy points, 100% of which came by gashing the heralded Los Angeles Chargers defense on the ground. For the Hogs, if you're going to be happy about something, it's definitely the emergence of Travis Etienne. 114 yards on the ground, 18.9 fantasy points, and he just got the keys to the Jacksonville Jaguars backfield after James Robinson was traded to the New York Jets. Up next, one of our biggest blowouts of the week, Bangers and Mash with a 55-point milking of those titties. Bangers and Mash moves up to the league best 6-1 as the Ragtag Titties sagged to 2-5. The Bangers running backs got it done this week. Austin Eckler with the best performance of Week 7, 36.7 points, catching all 12 of his targets and scoring 2 touchdowns. He is your RB1 on the season. CMC joins the 49ers on Thursday, so he barely sees the field. Taking his place in the lineup is the former 49er, Raheem Mostert, who cuts up the Steelers for 109 total yards and 22 fantasy points on Sunday Night Football. On the other side of the ball for the Ragtag Titties, Keenan Allen back in the lineup, but he barely saw the field, just 2 catches on 2 targets for 11 scoreless yards. Speaking of 11, that's just how many points Jeff Wilson and Lenny combined for, and Deebo Samuel failed to hit 10. So when we're looking at the bottom of the standings, the 2 teams sitting at 2-5 are the Hogs and the Ragtag Titties. The only team lower on the totem pole is Team Cardoso, who falls to 1-6 at the hands of the High Rollers. When you score 118 points, you usually flip a coin whether you win or lose. For the High Rollers, this time, they rolled a 20. It's a 51-point blowout as Team Cardoso's team gets decimated by injuries and musters a mere 67 fantasy points. Zach Wilson at the helm drops a measly 7, and DK Metcalf gets injured after scoring just 2. And some of the worst news we've heard all season, the promising young first overall FFL pick, Breece Hall, your RB7 overall, and likely Offensive Rookie of the Year, suffers a torn ACL and meniscus injury, which puts his season to a premature close. Good news. You could hear a pin drop in Team Cardoso HQ, but believe me, brighter days are ahead. Next year, we will be forgetting all about this with Trey Lance, Breece Hall, and most likely Bijan Robinson dancing their way into the end zone and selling out stadiums for many years to come. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the highest scorer of the day for the High Rollers. It's Oscar's monster, Eno Benjamin, looking like Michael Jordan out there, dropping 23 points. Y'all laughed, and now it's time to cry. The High Rollers rejoin the above 500 crowd and move up to 4-3 on the season. And that's all for Week 7, meaning we have passed the midpoint of the regular season. It's time for some second half action and some 2-minute drills. Week 8 of the FFL.
FFL Week 8.
America's Game of the Week. Fuck that. America's Game of the Year. A possible Super Bowl preview. 6-1 bangers and mash versus the 4-3 red hot 3-game win streak. Rest in peace, Pop Smoke. 60% of the fans at home going with LegM, but the Vegas line has bangers and mash as a 1-point favorite. And some late breaking news. This is terrible. Jamar Chase, the star receiver, out for 4 to 6 weeks with a hip injury. Now, this came out of nowhere for me, and this is going to affect LegM for the next month. The Vegas line has been unaffected by this, so we'll see how this shifts with the injury news. But for now, this is still predicted to be a tight one. Austin Eckler for the Bangers is on a bye week after all, and he is your RB1 overall. Now, some blows for both teams, but I've got chills still thinking about this matchup. And speaking about the matchups, I'll tell you, this head-to-head has some motherfucking head-to-heads. Zach Ertz and Kyler Murray's Cardinals versus Jeff's Vikings. CMC's 49ers take on Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee's Rams. And Alvin Kamara Saints take on Josh Jacobs' Raiders. So neither team at full capacity in this one, but anything can happen this game, and I cannot wait for kickoff. Up next, the only other battle between teams above 500, the 4-3 Hogs take on the 4-3 High Rollers. 80% of the fans at home are hopping on the Frogs train, and they are your 5-point Vegas favorites. Sizzle's kicker and defense play each other tonight on Thursday Night Football. Cortland Sutton starts on Sunday night morning. Cortland Sutton starts on Sunday morning against the Jaguars in London, and Aaron Jones gets Sunday Night Football against the Bills. Last but not least, on Monday Night Football, Nick Chubb goes head-to-head against T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. The Multiverse hop off a top-scoring output last week and take on the sagging Ragtag Titties. Despite a seemingly big disparity between the teams, the Vegas line is a mere 8 points, and only 60% of fans at home are siding with the Multiverse. Now, what on earth could explain this? The Chiefs have a bye week. Okay, never mind. So in place of Patrick Mahomes, Kirk Cousins gets the start versus the Cardinals, and Mike Gesicki will see game action in place of Travis Kelce. Up next, a massive game with playoff consequences. 2 teams on the playoff bubble go head-to-head as the 3-4 Rejects take on the 2-5 Hogs. If the Hogs win this game, both teams wind up 3-5, but if the Rejects win, they'll sit at 500 and kick the Hogs to an alarming 2-6. So grave consequences here, and a definitive must-win for the Hogs if they want to compete in this year's playoffs. And finally, King Nick has an unprecedented fantasy bye week of sorts as he takes on a projected 93 points from Team Cardoso. Now, there's no such thing as a sure thing in fantasy, but Breece Hall just got hurt for the year, and DK Metcalf looks like he's also missing the week with an injury of his own. Thrust into the lineup for Team Cardoso were Darnell Mooney and the newest member of the New York Jets, a devilish start projected 6.66 points, Mr. James Robinson. King Nick will be tuning into primetime as Lamar and Mark Andrews play tonight on Thursday Night Football versus an injury-plagued Bucs, and Joe Mixon takes on King Nick teammate Amari Cooper on Monday Night Football. Well, that just about wraps it up for this week of FFL Weekly. Thank you so much for tuning in. Good luck to your fantasy teams this weekend. May the gods be kinder than they were last week to Team Cardoso. And may we all be a little kinder to one another. Remember, anti-Semitism has no place in our world, nor does any other form of hate. Stop the bullying and come out of the closet already. We're all so proud that you're bisexual. Have a great football weekend, everyone. Take care.